Hi, everybody. Oh my goodness. Okay, here we are. The little bell went on, so we must be kind of live. Okay, so I'm going to get started with the onions here, and I'm just going to start right away because I want to get those cooking, and just going to slice these guys up. Make it kind of chunky because I want quite a few onions in this. So what we're doing today is we're watching me make, oh my gosh. Okay, we're watching me make a, it's kind of going to be like a kidney bean. Hey Jane, hi, good morning. It's going to be like a kidney bean, Moroccan, I need a name for it. Kidney bean Moroccan. I don't really want to call it a stew, but it's kind of going to be like that. So we'll try and come up with a name for it, and that's what's so fun about doing the Facebook Live is coming up with names for things. So I am doing some little potatoes here too. I don't usually do the potatoes like I usually sort of pre-cook them, and I didn't. I'm not. So we're just going to see how this goes, because what I want to do is I do actually want to cook it slowly for a while. So after we put it together, I'll be putting it in the crock pot. So that it will cook slower. So yeah, so this is my experiment for today. We're just doing some interesting healthy meals here, and normally this would be more of a cold weather thing, and I'm not really exactly sure why I'm doing it now because it's warm outside. But my goal is to be able to go out into the garden and to work in the garden all day. So I like to come in and just have something ready. And so what we can do with this to make it a little bit more summery is to have a beautiful summer salad, and then just a little bit of this on the side as a something a little bit heavier and more like a fuller meal, I guess you could say. Okay, so I'm just going to put these guys in here and get those going. So in my pot, I just have water in it, and it's on high so that I can actually just get things, starting to cook a bit and not take too long. And so basically the idea of how I usually start my soups and most of my meals, a lot of my meals, is get some hot water in the pot, have it on high, and then you start actually almost stir frying. And then usually what I do is I add water to it if it's a soup or something like that afterwards. And that way you're really in control of how much you're cooking each vegetable. So say if I wanted to add green beans, or I wanted to add kale, or any other kind of vegetables like broccoli or cauliflower, something that's tender, that cooks a lot faster, then you can just add that at the end, and then basically it's going to be raw at the end. And so you've really just cooked your carrots, and if you're adding carrots, you've cooked your carrots and your potatoes, if you're having potatoes, and your onions, and then all of your other, like I say, the more delicate vegetables can just be thrown in at the end, so that they're basically raw, so that you're getting more nutrition from them. So that's usually how I start things. And I think I'll add a little bit more onion here to this one. And I'm making it a little chunkier, so I'm not cutting my onion the normal way. I do have a normal way that I normally cut up an onion, and this isn't it. So For those of you that have watched me before, it's pretty funny. Whoops. Uh-oh. Okay, so glasses on, glasses off. That's so funny. As you know, people that watch this all the time, I can't see with the glasses on. I can't see with them off. So for me to be able to see the comments of everybody commenting, I have to have them sort of half on and half off, which means I can't really see what I'm doing right here. Oh my gosh, sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. It's too funny. Anyways, okay, so so that's what we're doing today. So I'm just going to cut the carrots on an angle and get these guys in here and get that heat on high. So of course, if you haven't seen this before, me talking about the vegetables, the onions are really, really important. So we all need to, get my hair over there, we all need to stock up on onions for the winter because they are really, really antiviral as well as being anti-inflammatory. They're really good if you have nothing else for allergies. They're really good for allergies. They can, as you know, especially yellow onions, make you cry. And so the yellow onions have more antihistamine in them, more antihistamine properties than a white onion or a red onion. So if you're having an allergy or something, you can always cut up an onion if you were having sinus congestion or that kind of thing. So, you know, it seems like such a simple little thing that everybody knows, but I think sometimes people just, you know, if they're having sinus congestion or whatever, they kind of run for an antihistamine and, you know, take something over the counter, when sometimes all you really need to do is cut up a raw onion and inhale it, and it'll help you to breathe. So it's just something to think about, you know. I was gleaning this morning with the gleaning team, and we were talking about that, you know, having the home remedies, and I don't really know if we're going to have any kind of problems with getting vegetables this winter, you know, with all the crazy politics going on. I mean, who knows, right? So it's good to have a variety of options for whatever ails you, right? So you want to be able to have things in your kitchen that are really helpful in case whatever happens, you know, if you know, I know the essential things don't get shut down, but who knows? And so if you can't get something that you're used to getting, what we're doing here is we're sharing alternatives, natural health remedies, and different things that a person can use if you can't get the normal thing that you're used to getting. So yeah, so the other thing that works really well for opening up your sinuses, and of course most of you know this too, and not everybody grows it, but that's horseradish. So if, you know, pretty much everybody knows if you eat horseradish and you inhale it, or wasabi, that'll clear your sinuses right away. So that's another thing to have around, and most people will have a jar of the prepared horseradish, and that does work. But if you can get a little piece of horseradish root from somebody, then that's even more beneficial, because the actual horseradish root, you can just grate a little bit of the root, you know, or even up to the stem a little bit, and that's really, really good as a natural antihistamine too. And you can actually make that into a tea. So, you know, if you didn't have anything else or nothing else is working, that's an option. And I think, you know, it's pretty easy to grow horseradish. And for the people that are local here, I do happen to have a pretty good amount of horseradish. So if you need a little piece of root, it catches on right away. Like it just grows. If you need a little piece, I have a couple pieces to spare if somebody wants some. So, okay, we're going to keep adding this to it. Okay, so horseradish root. Ginger's another thing that's really helpful for allergies too. And you know, it's the way it assists is through opening up the circulation. It gets everything moving, and so it kind of, yeah, that's pretty much how it works. Is it's a circulatory herb, and it gets everything moving. And of course, it's a down herb, right? So it starts by circulating down and going, getting all the blood vessels open, and that's why it's so good for nausea. Is it brings the circulation down, and then it circulates back up. So it is really good for things like, well, obviously nausea. It's really good for digestion, but in a roundabout way, it can be helpful for allergies as well, just because of the circulatory part of it. It's just a great thing as a tea for if you have swelling in your ankles or any kind of edema or that kind of thing. The ginger is just amazing for that. Okay, so I need to save, I'm so carried away here with the carrots. I need to save 2 carrots for our next recipe. And so I'm going to stop right there with the carrots and get these guys cooking away here. And then what I did do was I did pre-cook the kidney beans. And so these are kidney beans that were dry. And so that's another thing to prepare for the winter, right? Is to get a big bag of beans, dried beans, and dried rice. Yeah. Dried rice. Get dried beans and dried rice. And, you know, you can buy them at the health food store. Healthy Habits has them, and you can get like, you know, a 10-pound bag or a 20-pound bag, or, you know, if you want to get a really giant bag, you can get, you can't get rice, but you can get peas and barley from Wayne at Island Grain and Milling, I think it's called, Vancouver Island Grain and Milling. But Healthy Habits or any of your health food stores can get, you know, good quantities of beans and rice and different kinds. And then of course, you know, any grocery store is going to have them too. So, you know, it's a good opportunity right now to go out and stock up and get a little bit extra every time you go shopping. Get 2 of whatever it is that you're getting, so you can gradually build up a little bit with the. Hey Renee, hi, good morning. Yeah, so that you can build up your I want to call it a pantry. I don't really have a pantry, but you know, you want to stock up a little bit for the winter with the dried beans and dried other, you know, dried peas for making split pea soup and that kind of thing. And so what I did with these kidney beans was they were dried, and then you soak them. And that's the thing. We've had many conversations about lectins and people being sensitive to lectins. And the lectins are the indigestible part of the mostly beans, although many grains as well. And so the lectins are what create the gas and the bloating, and it's that indigestibility basically. And so you're gonna, with any beans and many grains, but especially the beans, of course everyone knows, so you're supposed to soak them and rinse them and soak them and rinse them, and that's to remove the lectins. And so I think what a lot of people maybe don't know is that you really need to do it more than once. You know, soak them for a couple hours in water, drain that off and fill it up again, and then let them soak again for a couple more hours. If you can soak and rinse 3 times in a day, that's like optimal. And then if you can do it even 2 days and then soak and rinse the second day, then that removes more lectins. And then if you, you know, once you cook them, if depending on what you're making, if you cook them and then you remove that liquid and then you put them into your recipe with your final liquid that's going to be in your recipe or your meal, then that helps even more. So, you know, it really all depends on where you're at with your digestive system. Some people you can rinse and soak and they're fine, but generally most people do well with at least 3 times rinsing. And if you're super sensitive, you know, and you say, oh, I can't do any kind of beans or legumes or anything because of, you know, gas and bloating or other digestive issues, rinse them again after you cook them. I know it sounds strange, not too many people do that, but if you're that sensitive, it is very helpful, and it still eliminates the gas and bloating, and who wants that anyways? So So with these, I rinsed them and drained them 3 times yesterday, and then I rinsed and drained them this morning, and then I put them in the Instant Pot and I cooked them, and then after I cooked them I rinsed them again, and so there's no liquid left in here. And if I was going to make a you know, like a lovely whatever, bean soup or a chili or a baked bean thing where you want to just cook it all day, then I would do that. I would add that liquid after. It's so interesting because, you know, I don't know about you, but I was raised that, you know, you soak your beans and rinse them once, maybe twice, and then you put them in the pot to slow cook all day. And that's, you know, getting those flavors and simmering and all that lovely, you know, enhancing all the flavors over a long period of time is super awesome. But apparently, you know, the research is if you have a problem with lectins, that you need to fast cook them. So they're suggesting pressure cooking the beans, and then you can do your slow cook. So they are suggesting not to start cooking from even soaked to a slow cook all day, because it doesn't really remove the lectins. They're talking about a fast cook, and then you can slow cook them after that, because all the lectins are out. So that's the thing, and they talk about that too. You know, if you are really sensitive to lectins, oh, I spilled some onion on there. If you are sensitive to lectins, you know, there are lectins in, I mean, depending on how sensitive you are, there are lectins in peppers, in the seeds, tomato seeds, and in the skins of the peppers and the tomatoes. And then, of course, there's the whole nightshade thing, which we've spoken about lots before, too. Hey, Darlene, good morning. Hi. So, yeah, so if you're that sensitive to it, we have spoken about that before, that removing the lectins or avoiding the lectins is helpful, but a lot of people will just stop eating that thing and not really working with what's going on with their digestion. And so there are so many things you can do to heal your digestion if you are that sensitive, that lectins bother you, you know, unreasonably, or nightshades or whatever. And so with the nightshades, it's a little bit different because they tend to be more inflammatory, you know, kind of going on to stimulating. I'm going to use the word stimulating, you know, sort of arthritic or achy issues and that kind of thing. So, so if you are going to eat those things, you can use something with them that's anti-inflammatory. Like you can add turmeric. Turmeric has the curcumin in it, and so if you're going to eat something inflammatory, do something anti-inflammatory to counteract those, you know, those potential issues from happening, you know, so that they don't. And so there's lots of ways to be able to, depending on your own health condition and how, you know, how affected you are by it, there are lots of ways to do things to counteract things that you want to do that you shouldn't. Did that make sense? I'm not sure if that made sense. But to be able to eat the things that you shouldn't, there's often a gentle way around it so that you minimize the negative effects of doing what you want to do that you shouldn't be doing. How's that sound? And it totally, depending on what it is, of course, you know, if you really have a lot of health issues, then you really want to trim that up to until you're at a state where you can handle a little bit of negative impact, right? So if you're really having some intense health issues, then of course you want to stay away from any of that until you're to the point where you are in a balance where you can go up and down a little bit from, you know, not being so strictly perfectly perfect. So what I'm going to add to this, I'm just wanting those potatoes and carrots to cook down and be really nice and cooked. So I can tell it needs a little more water. So I just have water in the pan. There's no oil at all. I haven't used any oil. I usually don't add oil to these types of things, to my soups or stir fries or that kind of thing, because you really don't need the oil, you know, unless I'm doing something specific and I kind of want a shiny finish on it so that it looks nice for the pictures. Then I'll add a little coconut oil, or it depends on the recipe. So what we're adding to this too, get these guys, all these, I want the little potatoes nicely cooked before we add the beans. But we can add the seaweed. So we have seaweed here, and this is the kombu, and so the seaweed has all of your trace minerals. It has all kinds of vitamins and minerals that you don't find in many other foods. So it also has, of course, most people know it has iodine in it. It's a natural iodine, obviously, from the seaweed. It's not like taking iodine, and certainly not like iodized salt, which you don't want to be using. So the seaweed has lots of trace minerals, and it's also very much reduces, and even there's been so much research of it being used for radiation, for reversing the effects of radiation, like in a person, but also in reversing the effects of radiation in the environment too. So they used seaweeds to heal, basically, when they had the radiation nuclear earthquake thingy, in Japan. They've used seaweed in, they noticed with the land, right? When the seaweed is there, it removes the radiation, and also from your body. So it's a really good thing to incorporate as much seaweed as you can into your diet, because we're all exposed to, oh my gosh, cell phones and computers, and we've got radiation explosion all around us. So make sure to incorporate your seaweed, and then you need to add less salt. Even if you're using a Himalayan sea salt or Celtic sea salt, you need to use less salt in your food, which is awesome. And you're getting all those really, I can't remember the names of them all, but all the really tiny trace minerals that you don't get in other vitamins and minerals or foods, because a lot of the foods have your general stuff, right? Calcium, magnesium, and the vitamins and everything. And the thing is, we generally eat a lot of the same foods over and over again. Okay, so you've got your main things: carrots, potatoes, broccoli, cauliflower. So then your body's only getting those basic minerals and vitamins, which is good. You need them, but the seaweed adds so much more of the trace minerals. And I don't know, the names escape me at the moment, but anyway, you can look it up. So yeah, so add some seaweed, and like I was saying, it does have the natural source of iodine, which balances the thyroid. So this one here is Wakami Seaweed too. I really like this one. It's got the little things in it. And you can, any seaweed is edible, and you can gather your own. Just make sure it's in a place that's very, very pristine and clean as much as possible, hopefully way out on open waters. So the iodine balances the thyroid, and so if you find that you have cold hands and feet, if you find that you tend to get tired or sleepy between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, your thyroid could just be a teensy bit unbalanced, and so it really helps to balance the thyroid and keep it in its optimal, just happy. Gets your thyroid happy. Anyways, if you are on a thyroid medication, though, you would not want to take vast amounts of seaweed, or you wouldn't want to take it in a capsule form. You can buy it in a capsule form, but if you're on thyroid medication, you would have to do that under professional medical doctor guidance, or pharmacy, or whoever you're dealing with, your naturopath or whoever, because it would affect the medication, right? If you're taking some, if you're eating seaweed like this as a food and you've got just a little bit, it's not going to do anything. But if you're taking it in a capsule, it would be like a concentrated amount. And that's when you really want to be careful, because there are contraindications, and you want to make sure that you're not interfering with your medication for sure, and throwing anything else off balance. So I wasn't telling you guys what I'm doing here. So now I'm adding these mushrooms. These are the shiitake mushrooms. These particular ones are dried, and they are, oh my gosh, I feel like Darlene and Jane are going to know all this by heart. You can teach your own class pretty quick. Anyway, sorry for the repeating of everything. But it's good food, and, you know, I like to use it. So anyways, yeah, so the shiitakes are good for, they're very antiviral. Oh my gosh, they have so many antiviral, good for the immune system. And so I'm adding shiitakes, and you can buy these fresh. That's what I was going to say. You can buy these fresh at the grocery store, and they have a much milder flavor. When they're dried, they're kind of chewy and rubbery. And so what I find, the reason I'm breaking them around the stem is because I find that the stem is kind of chewy and a little too chewy. It's like, what is that? And so when they're dried, I don't put the stem in because I find it just a little bit too chewy and a little too strong. The flavor is really nice. It's got kind of an exotic, almost like teriyaki-ish sort of flavory thing. Oh my gosh, okay. So that's awesome. And so the other, just looking at the comments there, yeah, I don't mean to bore the people that have seen this before, but apparently we have lots of new people. So this is good information. This baggie here, we have oyster mushrooms, which we were so blessed and lucky to pick in May in the spring. And they, if you can find them in the wild, they are usually on, you know, dead or dying logs, and they look like little white oysters. And so these guys are super awesome because they actually help to clean the body. They remove free radicals and toxins, and they also remove, you know, like chemicals and that kind of thing. They have been used to remove those types of toxins and environmental pollutants from the environment. They've used them to clean up environmental issues. I can't remember the exact research or you know, examples of that, but they're really, really good for just keeping your body clear, because we're always absorbing toxins and chemicals and all kinds of things from what we do, what we're exposed to, and what we eat. So yeah, so the oyster mushrooms, so that's for flavor as well. So we have our seaweed, we have our mushrooms, and I'm just entertaining you guys while the potatoes cook down. But I am going to kind of simmer this for a couple hours. So I'm not going to worry about them being too cooked. I just kind of wanted them a little, well, you know, when you add water to it, they're going to float around in the water, and then it's going to take longer, and so they might not evenly be cooked. So I like to have everything kind of tender, crunchy. And then if I don't want to cook it for that long, I don't have to. And especially once I add my greens, I'm going to add them in anyway, just for color, but I'll add more when they're fresh to keep them from being overcooked and losing the nutrition from cooking. And I'm just confusing you because I'm looking at what I'm talking about, and you have no idea what I'm talking about, so I'll tell you in a minute. I'm going to add these kidney beans. And the other thing that I say often for you guys, because what I do is I make a lot of 15-minute healthy meals, and I have like hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel of these 15-minute healthy, easy meals. And one of the things that I do when I'm coaching for doing and eating nutrition-based foods is to make extra. So whenever you make anything, make a little bit extra, and it's just something additional that you can add to your other recipes. You know, you're kind of looking for something to throw in or to add. And so I usually always keep like a cup of whatever I'm making aside, you know, even if it's like a cup of rice or beans or whatever, and then it just makes you know, something, whatever it is that you decide to make after that, more interesting if you need it, and if you don't, stick it in soup. So as you can see, this looks beautiful. It kind of looks like a bean salad at this point, which is an option. As we know, you know, for we're always changing the recipes. Like when I do these, it's just a fun way of getting together and exploring different recipes and healthy foods. And quite often I'll start into this and then I'll be like, oh, that would be much better as a blah, 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 whatever that might be. So right now, I'm thinking at this point we could change my whole Moroccan bean stew idea, and we could actually, I'm just going to turn this off, we could actually make this into like a summer salad. There's an idea. So right now what I'm looking at, okay, so the potatoes are pretty cooked, carrots are pretty cooked, the beans are in there. You could add an olive oil to this and some, wow, that's a really good idea. You could add some olive oil to this and some garlic and of course, you know, Celtic sea salt and pepper, and just have this as a really nice light summer salad. And now I'm just looking at the sun outside and it's going to be hot. And this would be really nice. Yeah, so Darlene and I like doing this kind of thing. Okay, let's do both. We often start into a recipe and then I change it. And so, yeah, so this, the only thing I'm concerned about is I don't know for sure that these potatoes are entirely cooked enough for a salad. I've heard of people eating raw potatoes. I don't think that would really turn me on much, but let me see this big one. Let's see. Just right. Okay. That's good. Very good. So, okay, let's do that. I happen to have a dish here that has some little, I don't remember what this is, turnip leaves, that's what it is, turnip leaves. I have kale leaves and turnip leaves. Okay, so the first plant of the recipe, oh my god. Okay, the first plant of the recipe was going to have, and can still have, kale and turnip leaves in it, so that you have your nutrition for your, like, okay, back to the first recipe, what I started, this Moroccan stew, bean stew thing. I was going to put some kale in it right now, and then let it simmer and cook into a bean stew, and then add more of the kale chopped up fine so that it's just steamed, so that you're really getting the nutrition from the kale, because kale has, is the most nutrient-dense food, one of the most nutrient-dense foods, but it is hard to get the nutrition out by just chewing it, because it has, you know, kind of the tough outer layer. And so it's best to be massaged. It likes to be massaged so that you can actually absorb the nutrition. And you can massage it with a little olive oil, a little bit of Celtic sea salt or whatever. And so that's why I was just going to put some in now for color for the Moroccan bean stew. And then I was going to, it's just a phone call coming in. And then I was going to add more at the end, right before you serve it, so it's just gently steamed, so you're still getting the nutrition and the vitamins out of it. Okay, are you with me? Did you catch all that? So anyways, okay, let's do this. Let's switch this up a bit. If I can figure out how to do this without... Okay, glasses on, glasses off. Okay. Wax on, wax off. All right, let's try it without spilling too much, which we're pretty spilly around here. We like to spill things quite often and quite a bit. Now, so the interesting thing, yeah, that looks good. The interesting thing is, do I have a hard time with decisions or what? Is that your mushrooms should always be cooked. Okay, I've told you guys that lots of times, and because the mushrooms have something in them called chitin, which is again one of those kind of indigestible things, so they need to be cooked. So I'm just looking here at these guys, and I think they did rehydrate into being broken down enough for the chitin. And actually, I will look that up because I didn't really know or I don't know if dehydrating and then rehydrating actually breaks down the chitin. So I will look that up. Generally speaking, they do say in order to absorb the nutrition in the mushrooms, vitamins and minerals, the chitin has to be broken down. So there's something for homework. Okay, back to the plan here. Okay, first plan, I'm going to stick to the first recipe, okay? Oh my God, I have so many things to do here. I have all the, I was going to show you guys these two, which I forgot to show you anyway. Okay, I get distracted by every new shiny thing. Okay, back to the recipe. Okay, so back to the Moroccan. I'm not adding a lot of, you know, this is my style of Moroccan is what I'm trying to say. It may not be traditional, it probably isn't. This is just my plan. This is molasses, and you have to be really strong to open it because molasses sticks. And so we're going to grab a spoon, not a fork. So we're going to add, I'd say that much. That felt like about 2 tablespoons. Jane, my measuring person, can tell me if that felt like 2 tablespoons. I'm going to add a little bit of the maple syrup, and so I'm going to try for 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. Okay, so and I am going to add just a little bit. It's almost going to be like another salad anyway. It's seriously not turning into a stew. But it's going to be really good. So typically, I think that they add a lot of things like coriander and the different other cumin and exotic spices and things. And, I don't really want to do that right now. So what I'm going to do is just add the other tiny exotic thing. And I'm not going to add very much. This is cinnamon. Okay, so that was just a little bit of a shake, just enough to bring out that flavor. And then, of course, your pepper. Pepper for me to remember the pepper. Okay, and the Celtic sea salt. It keeps disappearing. I really need to have 2 of those because it keeps disappearing over by the stove. Yeah, so this is kind of the plan here, and I was going to add just a little bit of water to it too, and then just keep on letting that cook down. So you can add to that if you want. Just trying to think. One of the things that you can do with this is, if you wanted to, I'm not going to, but one of the things you could do to switch it up a bit is add a little bit of tomato paste or a little bit of tomato sauce. It just makes me think, like when you're cooking like this, you think, okay, what do I have in the fridge? And what do I have that might be really good that I can use to change things up a bit? And we're totally not going to be calling this a Moroccan anything, really. Because, okay, I'm going to taste it first and then I have an idea. And that's one of the things that people have said. They really like they like watching me cook because things change so much, and it makes you not afraid to try things because I'm just always changing it up. That was really, really good. Okay, I'm not going to go with the plan that I had in my mind because that tastes really good on its own. It's kind of like, a rich, it tastes really good. It's like a rich molasses maple syrup bean potato carrot dish. It's very good. Okay, I'm going to leave it as it was. What I was thinking, though, I will share what I was thinking because that could turn into something else too. I do happen to have some of that mango salsa, the fermented mango salsa that we made last week. And I have some of that, and I was thinking adding that, because the mango would bring out even more of the richer flavors. And then, of course, the mango salsa has the red peppers, the onions, the garlic, and that would be really super cool too. So, well, the other thing we could do, but I'm not going to, but we could do is split this into 3 dishes instead of 2. So, you know, don't ever be afraid of exploring and just, you know, just going with it, right? Because it's fun, and why not? And like I say nearly all the time, you know, you can't really make any mistakes. To me, you can't really make any mistakes in cooking because, you know, if you don't like what you've done, you can always turn it into soup or, you know, other things, you know, give it to your son who will eat anything. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that because it is really good. My other thoughts are, oh yeah, I didn't add the kale. But my other thoughts are you could add to that more vegetables. You could add zucchini. You could add pretty much anything to it. I mean, you know, probably cauliflower would be really good in that too. So I'm just going to add some of this. And right now I'm just adding it to, for color, because it'll be a little bit cooked. So when I forgot to show you, when I don't know, I think you guys can see this. When I do the leaves, I roll them up tight like this, and then just slice them really thin, kind of like rice-ish size. And then you can just kind of turn it around and slice it again so that it's really broken down. So I'm going to add this now, and then if I decide, which could change, seeing as how my mind keeps changing every 2 minutes, you can add more of this right before you serve it. But right now I'm just going to break it down. So like I said, with kale, really high in vitamin C, high in vitamin K, and so especially with things that are high in vitamin C, you don't want them overcooked. Although, like I said, because kale has that a bit of a tough, you know, cellular wall or cell wall, it's a little harder for us to digest straight up raw without being broken down a little bit. So even just warming it up and putting it in this will help it to break down. And so, wow. So that obviously can be really good on its own because it has that spicy Moroccan molasses maple syrup taste, and with the mushrooms and the seaweed, it's really good. Like, it's just awesome. But anyway, let's do this, and then I have another dish to play with later for, oh God, for another meal. So yeah, so that'll be fun. And like I say, don't be afraid to change it around. I do just happen to have the olive oil, whoops, right here. I can't even tell you how many times we throw things around here. Spill things, throw things around. Okay, so a little bit of olive oil. So the other thing you could use, and I would use, but I think I'm out right now, is avocado oil would be really good with this. You could also use a coconut oil with it as well for the benefits of the coconut oil. And that's so funny. I'm really wanting to add the kale and the turnip tops to this too. So I think I will. And so I'll just wind these up again. So these are from the garden, just little turnip tops with kale. And you can use, oh my gosh, you can use all of your tops. You can use your carrot tops. You can use radish tops. All of those greens that you can use. And one of the things I didn't know, wasn't aware of, was using pea tops. And I just heard about that the other day, that you can use your pea flowers, which makes sense, but I wasn't really thinking of using pea leaves, and so that's kind of cool. So I'm just going to sprinkle this on, but I'm not going to be cooking it, so it's going to be harder to break down. So I'm going to put the rest in there because that'll be warm cooked. I just put that in for color. Okay, new spoon. Let's try this. All right. I'm going to drive you guys crazy. I had plans for something else, but we're going to have to do it tomorrow because I just was way too distracted with way too many things this morning. Yeah, so that's going to look really good as a cold salad. Very simple, very plain. If you don't want something exotic like, you know, with the molasses and the maple syrup, this is just like a little, you know, bean, carrot, onion, potato salad. and with olive oil, and then of course you're just going to add your salt and pepper to it, and it's going to be a real basic thing. If you wanted to, you change this up again, and you could add some, in my case, it would be a veganaise, you know, instead of mayonnaise. So you could add a little mayonnaise, whatever it is that you choose to use in this, and that would be really super awesome too. So anyways, yeah. All right, so I'll be renaming the recipe, my plan for today. But I want to talk about one thing. I've kept you guys way too long. Is the herb of the day is the pineapple weed, which you are probably familiar with. It grows everywhere, mostly in gravel driveways and that kind of thing, or at least in my experience. It's really good. It's similar to chamomile, which we do have the chamomile here. Chamomile, everybody's familiar with. The little flower heads are good as a tea for relaxation and calming and helping to sleep and everything. And everybody knows everything about chamomile. But the pineapple weed is kind of similar, but it has more of a anti-inflammatory, anti-spasmodic, so it has like a calming for the nervous system, specifically for anti-spasming, you know, like if you have a lot of nerve tension, or you have intestinal cramping or that kind of thing, or, you know, stomach cramping, that kind of thing. It can be really helpful for that as well. And it's good too for like, in a tea, it's got some mild pain relieving qualities. So it has that too as a tea. So these are really, really helpful. You can find them almost anywhere. And so gather some up and dry them, because you never know what you might need this winter. So yeah, so that's it. Well, that was fun. Interesting turn of events. I am going to have a sip of my shrub tea. And so you guys remember we made the shrubs, I think it was last week. So this is just a little bit of the shrub in hot water as a tea. And that has all the vitamin C and all of the, here it is right here. This is a plum shrub, and we can talk about that more later. Making different kinds of shrubs. It's really great for gathering the nutrition of the fruit as well as the vitamin C, and adding it to hot water for a refreshing summer drink. I sound like a commercial. Okay, so you guys, check out my Instagram and my YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube and share. And have a really great day. We'll see you tomorrow at 11.